I didn't think he was as effective as he was midweek.
I thought he looked really dangerous at times, Peter, but his final final product wasn't great, which is unlike him.
And he faded out.
I think he looked as if he blew a gasket second half. I think he played the full 120 during the week and he was knackered today. So, yeah, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, and Cyril Dessers for me. There's Cyril Dessers with 2 S's in the middle and then an S at the end, and then there's a clone somewhere. Cyril Dessers, who he's never there.
Honestly, it was anonymous today. He didn't do anything at all.
I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, he didn't do anything at all. And that's an enigma that is Cyril Dessers. You know, he's either sugar or shite, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a T-shirt if ever I heard one. And Mohamed Diamonde, I'm going to give him an 8.
Yep, thought he played well, Peter. I thought that those 3 in the middle of the park really were the key to winning the game for Rangers. The energy they showed, getting up and supporting the striker, great finish into the corner. He's a player for me that I didn't really fancy at the start. I thought, I'm not sure about him for the money they paid, but he's definitely coming onto a game and looking more impressive by the week.
Yeah, we'll hear the comments of some of the players. We've told you what Nico Raskin and James Tavernier had to say. We'll hear from Barry Ferguson, and of course we'll get the comments out of Brendan Rodgers as well. What about your thoughts on this one? It's Rangers who win it by 3-2 at Celtic Park, and 3 seems to be the magic number that everybody enjoys in these matches. Rangers won it at Ibrox by 3-0. Celtic earlier on in the season, and of course there was the draw at Hampden that eventually went to penalty kicks, which 3 featured prominently. So, Blair, lots of people want to comment on it. This is the joy of the derby.
Yes, we've got some thoughts from Rangers and Celtic fans. Ian, a Rangers fan on the YouTube channel. I'm a Rangers fan. We played well in the first half. Celtic came back, but as you say, Tam, they had nothing to lose. Hamza with an absolute peach of a strike. So that was Ian there, happy with the result. John Barr on Facebook, I think he is a Celtic fan, outplayed in the first half. A couple of great saves from Butland. Outplayed them in the second half, then get beat by a mistake. But we need to stop this rubbish that Celtic are miles ahead of Rangers, because we're not.
Well, what do you make of that, Tam? It's a good point.
That's a good point. I think Rangers have shown in a one-off game that they're a match for Celtic. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think the disappointing thing for if you're a Rangers supporter is your inconsistency against other teams. For Rangers to play like they have in the last 3 games highlights how poor they've been the rest of the season. To be 13 points behind Celtic, so Celtic take care of the other games, the bread and butter games, the domestic games, the St Mirrens, the Ross Counties. They just go up there and win games. They go away from home, win, and at home they win as well. And Rangers struggle against these teams that sit in a low block. So I just thought the game again today for Rangers, it suited them. They could go and play in a European type situation where you've got a team coming on and attacking them in Celtic. You can sit in a low block and you can go and hit a counter attack. And I thought it was a very European-like performance from Rangers today. And they've been impressive in Europe away from home for years. And that was the key for it today at Parkhead for me.
Yeah, shots on target 6 from Celtic, 5 from Rangers. Shots off target 7 from Celtic and 4 from Rangers. Overall possession in this one, the percentages of it, I always think you can have all the possession you want in a match, but it's the goals that count, and the 3 goals from Rangers managed to see off the 2 from Celtic. What did you make of it all once it got to 2-2? Did you think there was only going to be one winner on the home side? Or if you're a Rangers fan out there, did you just feel with the tactical changes from the manager that these key decisions swayed the game to Rangers once again? Certainly on the evidence of Eagleman's finish, which was absolutely top drawer. Took a little nick off Cameron Carter-Vickers, but still, great goal.
Yeah, keeper had no chance. And as I said, he's been disappointing in recent months. I think from January onwards, there was a wee bit of speculation about him. He'd hit the hat-trick against Hibs. He was in real good form for Rangers. And I think, speculations maybe affected him in terms of being a young player and thinking that he'd possibly get a big move. He didn't get that. And he's got to knuckle down and get back into the team at Rangers. But, goals like that in a big moment, in a big game, really endear yourself to the Rangers supporters. And as I said, they'll go away tonight and the pubs and the bars will be singing his name because he's a hero at the end of the day. But took his goal well, got a little break of the ball from Johnson, and listen, Schmeichel had no chance with the goal.
Just out of curiosity, and this is the key, we've talked about the real stars for Rangers in this game, and I think all the plaudits and all the praise should go Rangers' way. To go to Celtic Park after the week they've had of 120 minutes and penalty shootout against Fenerbahçe, to go into the cauldron of Celtic Park in that atmosphere and then stand up and take the game to Celtic in that first 45 minutes. Barry Ferguson deserves tremendous praise. And then in the flip side of that, coming up against Brendan Rodgers and without McGregor, and by the way, he's taken McGregor off sometimes in the last few games. You know, sometimes if he feels as if he's maybe, as he knows, carrying an injury or running out of gas, but when he's not there, I just thought that there was a real miss, a real bridge between back, middle and front, and that was there for everybody to see.
Yeah, I just thought there's a real nervousness about Celtic, Peter, and it's unusual for a team that's 16 points clear and on the way to another treble to be really nervy. And listen, we speak about home advantage in these games, and it is a big factor, but it's only a big factor if you start the game properly. And if you lose the first goal, you've seen that at Ibrox when Rangers have got 50,000 there. You lose the first goal, that home advantage goes out the window because the other team starts to play with a bit of confidence. The pressure's off. And Rangers done that today. So, yeah, I was surprised at the way Celtic started the game because I seen the game against Hibs the previous week and they started like a whirlwind. You know, they were all over Hibs at the start, and I expected that again today against a Rangers team that they would have thought would have been leggy from midweek, but the complete opposite happened. The Rangers got a couple of early corners, got themselves high up the pitch, were brave and really got after Celtic. So, yeah, I think if Callum McGregor, I think, is a massive miss. He's been a great player for Celtic, but I don't think that's the only reason that they kind of lost the game today.
Yeah, absolutely. Full praise to Rangers. The performances, Nico Raskin, absolutely brilliant in the middle of the park, and Barry Ferguson were well aware of his qualities as a player, but as a manager, we are not aware of them at this level. What he has done is he's managed to come in there. Of course, Kilmarnock was a great fight back then. Suddenly you're saying to yourself, St Mirren, these results obviously can hurt and harm an interim manager trying to obviously lay his marker down. And when you get to a situation where you're suddenly looking at the latter stages of European competition, knocking out a team like Fenerbahçe and the amount of money they've spent, and then you go into a game against a manager who's been by far and away the best manager over the last couple of seasons in Brendan Rodgers, and at Celtic Park.
Yeah, I think that Barry will be going to the board and saying, listen, can we just play every game away from home? Because I think they've lost 3 games at Ibrox, is that right? Well, they've lost to St Mirren, Motherwell and Fenerbahçe.
It was 4 in a row. I think it's the first time Rangers lost 4 in a row.
And
then in a long time, Queen's Park, St Mirren, Motherwell and Fenerbahçe. Yeah.
And then away from home, they've beat Celtic, beat Fenerbahçe, beat Kilmarnock. So I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's obviously teams coming a little bit more defensive at Ibrox, and I just don't think that Rangers players can cope with that pressure at Ibrox. I think they play a little bit freer away from home. When teams come onto them and attack them, but Rangers need to, and Barry need to sort that home form out from now to the end of the season, because if he wants to, he's put himself in the mix to get the job now, but if he goes and loses his next game at Ibrox, I don't know who Rangers' next game is against, Peter, but they need to go and win that. They've got Dundee away from home, and then they've got Hibs at home, so listen, you can see them going to Dundee and winning, but Hibs at home will be a tricky game for them, but yeah, they've got to sort their home form out, but away from home they've been brilliant under Barry.
Yeah, since he's come in, of course, the win over Kilmarnock, that loss to Motherwell, people then questioning it and saying, well, he hasn't got what it takes, he hasn't got that magic touch. But to be fair to him, Barry has mentioned on a number of occasions, look, I've had 1 day to work with him, I've had 4 days to work with him, I've had a chance to do this with him. He mentioned ahead of this game that, coming in yesterday, it was a kind of a light training session because of their exertions in midweek. And again, he's able to get the game plan over, ably assisted by his backroom team, and they're able to execute it. I wonder what the feeling is, Blair, among Rangers fans about whether he's worthy of a shot. Should we be even looking at it in a knee-jerk reaction basis here?
Yeah, I think the Rangers fans are generally quite happy with how it's going so far. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the mentality that he spoke about trying to instill into this Rangers team is really something that we're seeing coming to the fore. I can bring you some early quotes here from Barry Ferguson speaking to Sky Sports just after the game. He said that we deserved it, and that's the kind of performance, that's what it takes to play with Rangers. And you can just imagine he will have been in that dressing room and he will have those players fired up. He will tell them what these games mean if they were in any doubt about what it was all about. A very interesting point here from Les on the YouTube feed. He said, I don't think that having a week off is an advantage. Of course, Celtic not playing in the week, Rangers coming off the back of 120 minutes against Fenerbahçe on Thursday. He says, a team can lose momentum and form in those gaps. Interesting to see your take on that, Tam. If you're coming off the back of a big game, do you want to keep playing, especially when it's a big game like this? Do you want to go into it, or do you want those fresh legs?
I think if you're winning, you do. I think if you're winning, you don't feel tired. It's amazing if you're on a winning run, you could play every day, because your confidence is high. You don't think about, oh, I'm tired, I've got a sore calf, I've got a sore hamstring. If you're getting beat, suddenly you feel leggy, you've lost confidence. So, yeah, I probably agree with that point. I think if you're playing well and you're winning games, then you want your games to come up quick, thick and fast. But if not, it's the opposite of that. You feel leggy and tired. So, yeah. Listen, I think the Rangers have got plenty of staff in there. I think they've probably filled them up with the food and everything they need, the nutrients to go again today, and they showed that they finished the game strongly. So, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, James Tavernier telling Sky Sports, obviously happy to get the result. We had a really good first half and maybe sat off a bit much in the second half of the game. Delighted to get the 3 points. It's been a good week for the club. We showed resilience. We were brave on the ball and took our chances. We were clinical. With the character we've shown in the past few weeks, we had belief to the end, and Hamza pulls off a great goal. Delighted for the boys, and the man of the match in that game was Nico Raskin. It's amazing to score and make the stadium a bit calmer. The gaffer wanted us to go aggressive and put the pressure. It was really good, and I don't think too many people would argue with what he has to say on that one, because Raskin certainly, he was able to go out in that match, and whatever the instruction was from Barry Ferguson, he was able to execute it, ably assisted by Barden as well.
Yeah, and aggressive, I think that's the key word, Peter. I think the Rangers were very aggressive. I think Barry spoke about that in every press conference, being aggressive, being on the front foot, not sitting off with teams. And I think they've got the legs and energy to go and do that now, particularly in the middle of the park. And as I said, that was the key to it. Raskin, Barron, Diamandi up, squeezing up behind it, up close to Dessers, getting after Celtic, not letting Celtic play the ball at the back and play through them. So, yeah, I think that was the key to winning the game. And I think that James Tavernier hit the nail on the head there. It was a great performance, and they showed resilience, and they had to, because I think a lot of people watching that game at 2 each, whether you're a Celtic fan or a Rangers fan, would have thought, Celtic going to win this now. So to show that character and resilience to go and win at the end is a fair in the cap for everyone at Rangers.
Just makes you look back, and they've had such a positive result there. Reduces the gap to 13 points. I'm sure that it will not stop the procession towards the title for Celtic. It only slows it down possibly till after the break. But other than that, I think overall there is certainly a sense of optimism when you get such a big result at that, and when Rangers still have something to play for in the European games.
Yeah, they have. Listen, they've still got plenty to play for. Obviously, the league's gone. The Rangers fans will be frustrated at those 2 games that they lost at home. Because if they win those 2, it's maybe 6 or 7 points. You think there's a squeak. They're still winning the league, but those 2 games just took it away from them, losing those games at Ibrox. But yeah, they've got some massive games coming up. Athletic Bilbao, I think, will be a really, really tough game. They're obviously one of the favourites to win it. They've got, home. I think the finals in Bilbao, so they'll be one of the favourites to go and win it and to beat Rangers. But if Rangers can go over there and get a positive result in the first leg, then you never know. But yeah, I think everything's positive in terms of Barry, and they'll be bursting. I'm sure they'll have a few drinks tonight to celebrate, and maybe Barry will give them a day off tomorrow. I think the staff might be having a few beers as well with Doddsy and Griggs. So yeah, I think if you're a Rangers supporter, you're looking at the future a little bit more confidence, and it's brighter skies than it was maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, we've been very, very positive about Rangers and what they did. If you're a Celtic fan out there, well, what about the performance of Celtic? What about Brendan Rodgers coming up against Barry Ferguson and coming up short? Give us your thoughts on that. All the positives lie with Rangers for that first half performance, and then to be able to come back when Celtic have pegged them back to 2-2 and score the winner as well. So many positives around Rangers. Rangers fans, give us your thoughts on that as well, Blair.
Craig, a Rangers fan on the Facebook feed, he says, it's funny some Celtic fans saying a dead rubber. I don't think the Celtic players believed that in the second half. They were certainly going for it as if it was all to play for. John, a Celtic fan on the Facebook feed, we deserved nothing from that game. Our midfield was atrocious and our defence was terrible. I suppose we had a couple of injuries and nothing to play for, and we're on course for another treble, but still highlighting just how poor Celtic were, especially in that first half.
Yeah, I think that irked Celtic fans the last 3 games against Rangers. I know Celtic are going to go and win the treble, but I think that just plants a seed. If you're a Celtic fan, you think to yourself, maybe the gap's not as big as we think it is. You know, it is in terms of points, Peter, but
yeah.
I think that Celtic, as I said at the start of the show, I think Celtic are very consistent against the rest. And if Rangers can sort that struggling against teams at Ibrox, struggling against teams at Sitting, and they can take it down to the Old Firm games, then you could see a wee bit of a shift in momentum next season. But yeah, listen, Celtic will lick their wins and still win the treble. But I think if you're a Celtic fan, there's something in your head about the last 3 games. You're thinking that, you know, Rangers are not as far ahead as we think we are.
Yeah, one here says, poor result and performance from Celtic. Fair play to Rangers. They went and did a job on Celtic. No excuses. I'm going to actually just, on that point, Tam, and I think to put things in perspective, you know, I think it's a great result for Rangers, a shot in the arm for Barry. Whether it's enough to get him the job, because there are so many different situations that can materialise there with a new group of investors who might want their own man, might want somebody that they think is going to follow their game plan, or maybe they'll be influenced by what Barry's achieved. And certainly from some of the group of investors who were there at Ibrox in midweek, they'll be looking at that atmosphere and thinking, wow, Europe, brilliant, Celtic, win there, great. Maybe this is the boy for Rangers as far as the manager's concerned. The one thing I would say, though, Tam, is would some Celtic fans be looking at it and thinking, well, wait a minute, without a Callum McGregor, and obviously Ida come on, and they're looking for people to make a contribution. Maeda made a contribution. Hatate made a contribution. But again, they did not replace Kyogo in that January transfer window. And it's come back to bite them.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at that squad today, Peter, I think you looked at the Celtic bench and there was a lot of young kids on it that you know, to just come through from the B team, and you're thinking, not really strength and depth there. I thought that they missed the big boy Trusty. I thought they missed McGregor. And you're right. They rotate the phone now, so they're playing Maeda through the middle, and if it doesn't work, they take one of the wingers off, put him wide and put Ida on, and that's it. They've nobody else. You're right, there's nobody else to come on and try to change it up. Yang obviously can come on, he came on today as well. So I think if you're looking at the squad in general, as a Celtic fan, then you're thinking, we've got a long way to go. We've had a good season, they've done well in Europe this season, but they need to go and strengthen again, Peter, because as it looks as if Rangers are going to get that investment in the summer, and if they go and spend a few quid, you know, you can say to yourself, you know, Rangers, as I said, if they can sort the form out against the rest, then I don't think that the gap is as big as people have made it out to be this season. I think that's been evident in the last 3 games, Celtic Rangers.
Yeah, getting ever closer to the end of our broadcast, so there's lots of Rangers fans rightly enjoying the moment. A 3-2 win at Celtic Park and a brilliant goal to seal the victory as well, Blair.
A few Celtic fans, just as we were talking there, a little bit critical of their midfield specifically today. Miss McGregor so much, he's on metronome. Players looked a bit spooked. Another on here, William, very harsh on Arne Engels. Engels is a dud and McKeown is not fit to be in Kalmak's position. Just interesting, as you were mentioning there, Tam, the Celtic bench, I'll just read you out from this afternoon. Sinisalo, the goalkeeper, Greg Taylor, Anthony Ralston, Dane Murray, Francis Turley, Yang, Ida, Jude Bonner and Johnny Kenny, for a team that has so much money in the back. That is a bench that you would have to admit is lacking a bit of quality. So interesting to see if Celtic in the summer go and strengthen and go and get that strength and depth once again. Yeah,
they've obviously got Kieran Tierney coming in. I think that you know you've seen Schlupp and he's looked okay. I didn't think he looked great today, Peter. No, and that's a big game. I think that when you're a Celtic supporter, these are the games you're judged on. Old Firm games, and I didn't think he had a great game. I thought the pace of the game caught him out. I thought the intensity of the game caught him out, which is understandable. It's his first Old Firm game, and you'd maybe give him a pass with that. But you've got Kieran Tierney coming in, who's top draw for me, top draw signing for Celtic. You know, playing with Arsenal at the minute. So there's guys of that calibre and ilk that are going to come in and really strengthen Celtic. But You know, as Blair said there, reading the bench out, I think if you're a Celtic fan, you're looking 60 minutes, 70 minutes into the game, thinking, who are we going to bring on? You've brought either on at half-time, you think, Yang's the only guy that can really come on and make a difference. You're not going to put one of the young boys in, so I think Celtic need to go and strengthen their squad again in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. But all the positives with Rangers, some great performances and some great fight as well, which I think we've got to highlight, Tam. Desire to go that extra mile, to work hard, their work rate, their pressing, their ability to create. All the elements for me that Barry has managed to get out of this squad is something that Philippe Clement just quite simply couldn't at the end.
No, I couldn't, and whether that you've got to give the players, you can't just absolve them any blame, Peter. I think that the players have got to take a good look at themselves as well, because it's the same squad of players, and it's Barry's come in, he's gave them a wee bit of injection, maybe the training's changed, a different voice, but the players have got to take the responsibility as well. They kind of threw the manager under the bus at the end, getting beat for Queen's Park and St Mirren. So yeah, Rangers have been a lot better under Barry. And it's I think if you're a Rangers supporter, you're looking at their performances in Europe, their performances against Celtic in the last 3 games, and you've lost 4 games at home, back to back, and you're thinking, what is going wrong here? What is the problem with the players? Can they not handle playing at Ibrox? Can they not handle the pressure at Ibrox? Can they not handle teams sitting in? Because they're a totally different team away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Blair?
Something that we've not spoke about yet, the Rangers fans being back in the stadium. I wonder how much that played a part in Rangers being able to go on and get that victory at the end. How many times have we seen when one team takes the lead in a full stadium, their own fans, the other team can't quite work their way back into it without their away fans there. Joe on the Facebook feed is a Celtic fan, but he says, great game and Rangers deserve their win. Celtic fan here, but credit where it's due, and a far better atmosphere with both sets of fans in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be fooled by all this. I'll be blunt about it. That whole 2,500 is just a token gesture. It's a complete load of nonsense. Get the 7,000 Rangers fans back in. Get the 7,000 Celtic fans back in at Ibrox, and stop listening to petty fans who just can't bear the opposition fans jumping up and down and celebrating. This was a classic case today where you watch the Rangers players when they scored, Tam. They ran over to that corner to celebrate with their supporters. That's what it means. When you get to the 7,000, which I personally think is a great figure, because you get a real sense of occasion. The whole place cackles with the excitement and the passion of it. It doesn't actually, I'm not going to mince my words here. There are some elements within both supporters singing songs that I don't like. But as far as a spectacle's concerned, when they're celebrating goals, the tackles, the atmosphere just at times is unbelievable. That's what makes this derby special.
Yeah, it does. And listen, there was no away fans at all. It wasn't the same game, Peter. Even you're talking about, it's a token gesture. Even 2,500 today made a big difference for me. In that corner, you could hear them before the game, you could hear them during the game. If there's a little lull in the game, and maybe Rangers were on top, you could hear them getting behind the team, and that gives you a lift as a player as well. Whereas there was nobody before. But listen, I think the Rangers now being more competitive head to head with Celtic, I think you might see a change in the mentality at Ibrox.
Why? Just because they can compete?
I think that was a big factor in it, Peter, because Celtic were going to Ibrox and, let's be honest, they're wiping the floor with Rangers all the time, and that led to thinking, we need to get some of our own fans in here to give us an advantage.
Yeah.
So I think that Rangers being more competitive head to head now might lead to a change in mentality in the Rangers boardroom.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if that is the case. It's just, as ever in Scottish football, it's classic Scottish football, just pettiness. Whether it's in Glasgow or whether it's over in Edinburgh, restricting away supporters. That's what the game's about. Home and away fans celebrating, and there's nothing better than you see teams celebrating, players celebrating with 7,000 Rangers fans at Celtic Park, 7,000 at Celtic fans at Ibrox Park. It is absolutely amazing. And by the way, I know somebody says Dublin's just put a message up saying 2,500 is not a token gesture. The Rangers fans could be heard all day today. Well, whoop-de-doo. Because when I was in the press box at many an Old Firm derby, the allocation is 7,000 or 8,000, and at Hampden Park it's 50-50, and it's absolutely magnificent. That's the spectacle of it. It is one of the most famous derbies in the world, certainly not for technical football at times, but for the atmosphere, for the history of the poison of it at times, yes, we absolutely get that. But sometimes there can be some really good banter in these games, and sometimes some of the fans actually sing some decent songs. But overall, I think today is definitely about Rangers and the positivity around the way Barry Ferguson went about his job. Do you think he deserves it on a full-time basis? Does it need a longer-term view and a clear business strategy for Rangers that does not involve knee-jerk reaction or indeed any kind of sentimentality or nostalgia attached to Barry Ferguson, the player? Does it need someone to say, has he got what it takes as a manager, tactically, long term? Is he the right ambassador in that dugout for Rangers and the right technical manager that can take Rangers forward and win the title? Because that's all it's about, Tam, isn't it?
Yeah, as they've got to start winning trophies. Peter, it's okay, we're talking about today and Rangers, going and beating Celtic, but at the end of the day, Celtic will probably go and win another treble or another trophy this season unless Rangers perform a miracle and win the Europa League. It's another season without a trophy. But just getting back to what you're saying about Barry Ferguson, I personally think that the new owners will want to bring their own guy in. But maybe there's still a role at Rangers for Barry, maybe as an assistant or some sort of first team coach, because I think he gets Rangers, and I think you've seen that the last 4 or 5 weeks since he's come in. A lot of people were critical of Barry. Oh, his managerial record at Alloa and Celtic, he's not ready for Rangers. But I think he gets Rangers, and Rangers is his club. And I think you've seen today, he's not just a shouter and screamer going to go in and kick arses. He's actually got a bit of tactical acumen about him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that's underrated with Barry Ferguson. A lot of people have this perception of him. The reality is he's a man who eats, sleeps and drinks football, and of course his love of Rangers is never in doubt. He stepped into Celtic Park. He'd already in the pre-match press conference told everybody his Rangers side would go at Celtic. They would try the high press. They would play and try and, over 90 minutes just follow through on his instructions. And boy, did they do that. 2-0 up at half-time. Nico Raskin getting the first goal. Diamandi with the second. Stunned Celtic Park into silence. There was always going to be a fight back. It did indeed materialise. Maeda, Hatate. But then Rangers just somehow managed to summon up the energy again to get that goal from Egeman to win it by 3-2. The big question, is that one of those results along with the European performances that maybe can give Barry a fighting chance of getting the job? Blair fans will undoubtedly be enjoying this. If you're a Rangers fan, for Celtic fans, they'll be looking at it and saying, as Tam rightly mentions, 3 games, hard to take, but the title's coming soon.
Yep, just a couple of contrasting emotions here from Rangers and Celtic. Jan Parker Douglas, a Rangers fan here. Barry has a good team in Neil McCann and Billy Dodds in the background to help with the tactics. I don't think it's maybe should be underrated just how important that backroom is alongside Barry, given he is a novice manager. You guys obviously know these guys a lot inside out and know what they'll be bringing to the table. You've hit the nail on the head there, Peter, with this idea that the Celtic fans, these 3 games now are playing, it seems to be playing on the Celtic fans' mind. Dublin again here on the feed. We're going to win the league, that's what matters. We have to be critical of the team when it's deserved. That's 3 big games now versus Rangers, and we've been poor to average.
Yeah, I like William Logan's take on it. He says, we know the league is Celtic's, but today Fergie has learned from Brendan Rodgers. It was a lesson today. He said he didn't see a difference in the Rangers team. Brendan Rodgers said that under Barry Ferguson from when Clement was the manager. Well, quite simply, there is a difference. They've managed to win that game. And this was a game, by the way, that I think when I'm talking about giving Barry Ferguson full credit, this was a game where Brendan Rodgers in the pre-match was saying, okay, we were beaten at Ibrox. We're going out for a bit of revenge today. It didn't materialise because Rangers went about their business professionally and won the game.
Yeah, I thought Brendan, obviously his comments, I don't know if it was to get mind games a little bit of a dig at Rangers in terms of, they're still the same team, they're still the same tactics. I've watched them, but I couldn't see a Clement team going to Celtic and winning. Under him. So you've got to give Barry credit, you've got to give Rangers credit for the tactics. It was an interesting one. Celtic play the one striker. I was wondering if Rangers would play 3 centre-backs, you know, in terms of just picking up one. He did. He went with the 3 again, and the 3 in the middle of the park, and they really solidified the central area for Rangers and didn't let Celtic play through them. So, no, I think, as I said to you, I think it's a day for Rangers. I think Celtic will have their day in the sun at the end of the season, probably with a treble, but I think if you're a Rangers fan, you know, you're looking 2-3 months ago, depths of despair, you know, you're thinking you're a million miles behind Celtic. All of a sudden, you know, you've beat them at 3-0 at Ibrox, you've ran them close in the cup final, you've beat them a day, you've got a possible takeover coming in. So from being in the depth of despair, you're looking at going, by the way, with a bit of investment and some quality players in, we can close that gap with Celtic.
And our reporter Blair at this moment, even though you're talking a lot of sense, Blair's not really caring about what you have to say. He's just looking for flights to Bilbao in the price range that we can afford, Tam. I think the general feeling today, and rightly so, Blair, has to be full marks to Rangers, full marks to Barry Ferguson. Their players stood up and they won the game.
Yep. Just before we go, Peter, I'll leave you with some extended quotes from Barry Ferguson after that win. He said, "I've been trying to drum into the boys that there's more needed at Rangers than just being a good player. It takes a certain type to be a very good Rangers player. My group of players are certainly starting to show that."
Yeah, you can't argue with the evidence. At the end of the day, in the derby at Celtic Park, well, as Ian Crocker said, the Old Firm derby, the Glasgow derby, call it what you will. It's Celtic against Rangers. It finished Celtic 2, Rangers 3. Tomorrow, Tam will be here with me in the studio. We'll be discussing it in greater detail again, getting the after-match reaction from managers and players as well. At the end of it, it was Brendan Rodgers against Barry Ferguson. It was Barry Ferguson who came out in top with his players executing his game plan to a T, and it was Egeman who was the star man scoring that all-important winning goal in the second half. Hope you enjoyed our post-match reaction right across our social media. Thanks to Blair Malloy and, of course, to Tam McManus, and from myself, Peter Martin. Join us if you can, 4 o'clock on the live feed, or watch it at your leisure. It's PLZ Soccer, the football show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel tomorrow at 4 o'clock and beyond. Hopefully you can get it if you download our app as well. It'll have all the breaking news, and we'll also bring you reaction from that Dundee derby up there at Tannadice, Dundee United against Dundee. Our man Patrick Mullen is on social media right now, keeping you right up to date with what's happening in that game, and he'll get reaction from the managers as well. We'll look back over all the Scottish Premiership fixtures, but today in Glasgow, in the East End, in their very own backyard, Celtic defeated by Rangers. It finished Celtic 2, Rangers 3.